Hello again. This is Jen Lentz from New Orleans, and I think we're going to connect with Cory and JJ Dorfman. They were not able to join us today because of the Microsoft snafu yesterday. Are we connected?
We're here. Can you see us?
Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to take a minute to introduce you. I first met Cory and JJ a little over 10 years ago now, when their parents came to my lab in New Orleans to learn more about our research. And although it was Usher that brought us together, Cory and JJ are living with Usher, and I work in Usher. We have since gotten together to know each other as our families have spent time together as friends. So aside from my own family, I cannot think of another family in my life or friend that I have shared as many meals with, went swimming with, boating, lost at card games, and even a game of reverse charades with, than with Cory and JJ. In so many places in the world. We've done these things in New Orleans, at a lake home in Alabama, Puerto Rico, Tuscany, Italy, and Atlanta, and most recently in Lafayette in September of 2023. They do participate in my research studies, for which I am very, very thankful. But I have to say, I'm most grateful to have had the opportunity to get to know them as friends. So it's really such a pleasure to introduce them and to learn about their perspectives as participants in clinical studies and trials.
Thank you so much, Jen, for that wonderful welcome. We are so lucky to have you in our lives. All right, I guess I'll start. So a lot of this Jen already said. JJ, Cory, not Cory, not Cory, not JJ. Got it. Okay. So first, a little bit of information about us. We are twins. Can you see the resemblance between us? And we have Ush1C. We were born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where we still live. And we graduated last year from Emory University. We're 23 years old, and we've been involved in three major clinical trials that we will talk to you about today. So first off, what is a clinical trial? I'm sure a lot of you already know this, so this might just be review, but a clinical trial is a research study that tests a medical, surgical, or behavioral intervention in a subgroup of people. In this case, people with Usher syndrome like us. It may also include testing ways to diagnose or understand a disease. Again, Usher syndrome in this case. So why should you participate in a clinical trial? Well, first of all, you get to play an active role in your own health. Second, you get to contribute to discovering ways to help yourself and others. And you get to help future generations.
All right, so the first study we're going to talk about today is the Fight RP Extension Study, which takes place at Johns Hopkins University, specifically the Wilmer Eye Institute. So to clarify, there have been 3 studies of NAC, aka N-acetylcysteine. The first study is the Fight RP study, which we did not participate in. The second study is the Fight RP Extension Study, which we are participating in. And the final one is the NAC ATTACK clinical trial, which we are not participants in. So we're only participating in the FIGHT RP extension study. So the purpose of this study is to test the long-term effects of N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, which is a strong antioxidant that may slow the progression of retinitis pigmentosa. Again, this extension study is not to be confused with the NAC ATTACK clinical trial. As participants, we go to the Wilmer Eye Institute in Baltimore, Maryland, which is the only place this study is taking place. So this was originally a 2-year study that has been extended. We are currently in our 5th year. And originally clinical visits were every 6 months. Now they're every 9 months. So our experience at the Wilmer Eye Institute has been lovely. The clinicians are excellent, very hospitable and accommodating. We're usually in and out within about 3 to 4 hours. This includes when they dilate our eyes for some of the tests. At visits, we receive a 9-month supply of medication. We take that medication between visits twice per day and record the date and time in a book. We then return that book as well as both our used medicine wrappers and our unused medication at each visit. So now I'm going to run through some of the tests that we do at the Wilmer Eye Institute. The first one is a blood pressure and pulse rate check. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we have an optical coherence tomography, or OCT test, which measures the thickness of different layers of the retina. As people with RP, many of you have likely done this before. Then we have a vision test with an eye chart. Pretty self-explanatory. Again, probably something you've done before. Then we have a microperimetry test, also called a MAIA, which maps contrast sensitivity of central vision. So basically you look into a dark bowl and press a button when you see a light. Then we have a slit lamp examination, which checks overall eye health by shining a bright light in the eyes. Doesn't take that long. Then we have an ophthalmoscopy, which is an examination of the back of the eye, or the fundus, which includes the retina. Then we have a blood draw, again, pretty self-explanatory. There are some lovely snacks like little crackers and apple juice afterwards. And if there are any vampires, they get a lovely snack from us. Then we have the adaptive optic scanning laser ophthalmoscopy, or the AOSLO, which uses a laser beam to map imaging in the eye.
The second study we want to talk to you about today is the Prospective Natural History of Visual Loss in H1C study, which Jen Lentz is doing with us. Thank you, Jen Lentz. Jennifer Lentz, sorry. So about the study, so the purpose of this study is to observe the natural loss of vision and retinal structure in patients like us with Usher 1C. As participants, we are we participate by joining in a phone, video, or in-person interview to review the study and sign forms of consent and permission to obtain medical records. So your traditional clinical trial procedural stuff. And then we provide a list and contact information of previous doctors' visits to our researchers so they can deduce information from that. And then we visit every 6 months for 4 times at one of the 3 locations that the study is taking place in. So our experience, again, has been very positive. We visited the LSU Health Services Center in New Orleans, Louisiana, and you can either do the study in 2 half-day visits with paid hotel overnight stay, woohoo, yay. Or if you're crazy like us, you can do 1 full day, which is 7 hours of testing total, which is a lot. But the staff is amazing, very friendly and accommodating. So it seems faster than it actually is. And you get lunch. So that's always a pro. Um, and there's nothing you have to do in between each study or each visit. Um, so we don't have to take medication or log our medication times in a journal or anything like that in between our visits. So here are some of the tests that we're just going to run through really quickly that we did at this study. So we do refraction testing, which is where you get those funky little glasses, big glasses, not little glasses, big glasses, and you look into them and get prescription. Then we do a visual acuity and low luminance visual acuity test, which is where you look at an eye chart in different leggings, whatever. And then we did the contrast sensitivity test, which is where you look at an eye chart, but the letters fade as you go further down, and you have to read as much of it as you can. And then we did the visual field testing, which is where you put your head in a very stylish bowl and then measure your peripheral vision. And we do a reading speed test, which self-explanatory. You read a paragraph as fast as you can. Takes however long it takes you to read a paragraph. And then we do a color vision test. In case you don't know, this is the number 74, fun. And we that is measuring the ability to differentiate among colors. Then our doctor examines the front of our eye or the cornea, the lens, and takes our eye pressure. And then we do a macular integrity assessment or MAIA microperimetry test, which JJ talked about earlier, maps contrast sensitivity of central vision. And then we do a full field stimulus threshold test, which requires dark adaptation for 30 minutes, so you can just rest or sleep if you want, if you can. That's a good idea. And then that takes about 10 to 15 minutes, the actual testing part. And then we do a dark adapted chromatic perimetry test or DAC test. This measures dark adapted retinal function at multiple retinal locations. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes, plus another 30 minutes of dark adaptation. Then we do the OCT test, which JJ already talked about. And then we have a light flash in our eyes for fundus photography, which measures structures of the interior of the eye, including the optic disc, the retina, and the lens. And then we did our fundus autofluorescence test, which detects fluorescent pigments in the retina to monitor disease progression. And our final eye exam was the retinal exam, which under dilation, the doctor examines the retina, optic nerve, and surrounding blood vessels. And then we fill out a little quick survey about our experiences with vision loss and RP in general. Back to you, JJ.
Thank you, Cory. The final test that we're going to talk about today is the final study we're going to talk about today is the retrospective natural history of Usher syndrome in Louisiana, which took place at LSU. So the purpose of this study was to gather clinical and socio-demographic natural history about Usher syndrome. As participants, like with the previous study we talked about, participants would do a phone, video, or in-person interview to review the study and sign forms of consent, as well as providing a list and contact information of previous doctor's visits. In addition to that, there are surveys on your experience with Usher syndrome. This is something that happened when we were kids. Our mom filled it out for us, so we really didn't have to do anything. So now that you've heard all this, you're probably considering whether or not to join a clinical trial. Clinical trials are very important. They help the community as a whole, they help future patients, and they provide you with accurate information about your condition. A lot of time and money goes into these studies. The doctors are working very hard, and it requires a lot of funding. Science is very precise, so changes to the study population can cause challenges, which means if somebody drops out suddenly, that can be a big hassle. So consider carefully before joining a clinical trial. If you do decide to join a clinical trial, try your best to fulfill your obligations. Do not join a study if you don't think you'll be able to complete it, and don't broadcast your participation or opinions on the study publicly. So don't post anything on social media regarding the study. So yeah, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it, and we hope you will carefully consider whether or not to do a clinical trial.